Hello, I'm Doug McConnell, and we've got some great discoveries for you out here along the open road.
We'll explore humanity's deep connection to nature and nature's capacity to keep us and our communities healthy at all times, but especially during the pandemic.
It's one of the best medicines we can have.
We'll follow the saga of the Bay Area's largest local system of public parks, from panic to problem solving, facing big challenges to keep parks open and safe during the COVID-19 crisis, promoting the health of everyone in difficult times. It's a story of partnership between public health and public parks, collaborating closely in the public interest.
Our nature is to be in nature.
It's who we are. Human beings, did not start out with urban concrete and buildings. We really started out in nature, and it's really important to us as human beings and to our overall health.
Humans come from nature and belong in nature. And we know that the mind, the body, and the soul craves nature.
When someone is outside in nature, when someone is, under direct sunlight, when one engages in exercise, our parks are wonderful environments for providing all of that.
Inhale, exhale.
The health of people, communities, and nature are indivisible. In urban America, healthy people and healthy communities need healthy parks to thrive. We human beings are creatures of the natural world in which our ancestors and we have evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. And whether or not we always recognize it in our urban world, needing time in nature is deep in our DNA. Thankfully, the Bay Area has the most freely and readily available access to nature of any major metropolitan region in the nation, mostly in our public parks, protected for all the people, for all time.
Parks are essential. They're more essential than they've ever been.
The East Bay Regional Park District is the largest park system in the Bay Area, consisting of 73 very different parks, covering 125,000 acres in Contra Costa and Alameda counties. These parks, near every East Bay community, are very popular, in normal times attracting more than 25 million visits per year. Bob Doyle is the general manager of East Bay Regional Parks, and Carol Johnson is in charge of the district's communications.
We are about our community. We have a diverse community. We have a range of people that we really need to serve, and we're not going to just have parks where people can afford to live next to one. And that's so East Bay Regional Park District. It makes me so proud.
I love the fact that I'm involved with an organization that is essential to humanity, that's essential to people's health, and that I can actually provide that and be just a part of that.
Healthy parks create healthy people. The power of being outdoors for prevention is tremendous. It's one of the best medicines we can have. It's free, it's abundant, and there's no side effects.
Recognizing the fundamental importance of its parks to the health of the vast population it serves, East Bay Regional Park professionals formed close working relationships with public health professionals over the past 10 years, launching an important initiative they called Healthy Parks, Healthy People, to proactively engage local residents from every community.
We can leave the concrete jungle, and nature is right within our reach. And just let the silence of nature remind you of who you are.
In fun outdoor activities designed to improve their physical and mental health and inspire the general public to get outside.
We have great relationships with Alameda and Contra Costa County health departments. Those relationships are critical.
It's such an incredible and important network of parks, and we've really appreciated working closely with East Bay Regional Parks District.
The public health and public park professionals had made a lot of progress together over the decade, helping improve the quality of people's lives. when in March of 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic suddenly turned everyone's world upside down, and Bay Area residents were ordered to shelter in place.
The Bay Area health officers were united and clear from the beginning that parks are an essential part of our response to the pandemic.
The East Bay Regional Park District, created by voters 86 years ago in the depths of the Great Depression, now faced perhaps its greatest challenge ever: how to stay open and continue to serve the health of the community without endangering it.
This is like a spaceship landing and saying, okay, you have to redo everything in the way you think and the way you do it, but by the way, you still have to function. The first week was, frankly, a panic.
When we come back, the story of how East Bay Parks and its public health partners sought to keep the parks open and safe in the first 5.5 months of the global pandemic, and lessons that have been learned so far.
The number one lesson for me was parks and health departments have to work together, and we were lucky enough to have those connections.
We're in this together. The more we can support each other, the more we can maintain this beautiful abundance of nature to keep the Bay Area healthy through all the threats we will face into the future.
OpenRoad is made possible by the generous support of our underwriters, dedicated to protecting our natural and historical treasures in the Bay Area and beyond. Additional support is provided by these institutions, also caring for our special environmental and cultural legacies and making them accessible to each and every one of us, now and for all time.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us during what is an unprecedented morning in the coronavirus crisis. Right here in the Bay Area, nearly 7 million people are waking up to a shelter-in-place order.
On March 16, 2020, as the threat of the coronavirus became clear, the residents of most Bay Area counties were ordered to shelter in place and leave home only for essential purposes.
Parks are a healing space and actually an intervention, a public health intervention, medicine for the people during this time, which is why we've been so clear that just like grocery stores and pharmacies, outdoor spaces where people can be safe and healthy are essential to keep the public well.
They said that parks are essential because everybody's going to be locked down. And it's not just for physical exercise, it was for mental health. It's to protect families that may not have the best situation going on in a crowded household. So they said that's number one. Number two, outdoors is the least possible exposure because you're outside. The big issue was trying to interpret what the county health departments were saying and what the governor's office was saying and what we could and couldn't do. The first week was, frankly, a panic.
History is unfolding, and it is uneasy for so many of us. So many updates and changes with this crisis, and we are only in day one of this shelter in place.
The pandemic presented unprecedented challenges for the leaders of the East Bay Regional Park District. They had no playbook to tell them exactly how to stay open and keep everybody safe. But panic soon progressed to problem solving in close collaboration with the park's public health partners. Job one was to help individuals and families get outdoors safely to benefit from exercise, fresh air, and the healing powers of nature.
The very first thing we did is what do we have to do to safely open up the trails and keep them open?
While inviting individuals and household units outdoors, the district had to close indoor facilities and ban groups from gathering. Swimming, camping, and other popular activities where people congregate were not allowed.
So we shut down every visitor center, every group activity, including our picnic areas, which has been really difficult because people love to picnic in our parks.
The Park District's board of directors was fully supportive, and the district staff rallied courageously, serving as essential workers in the public interest, everyone following the goals and guidance of their public health partners.
In normal times, these parks are essential. During abnormal times, such as during this pandemic, I would say they are beyond essential.
While the East Bay Regional Park team sought to play its many roles safely and successfully, local residents also had to learn how best to behave and protect each other on the trails.
Trying to communicate to 2.7 million people in the midst of a pandemic is overwhelming, but like everything else, if you just stop and you sit down and you think it through and you plan and you have a team that knows how to execute, that's where it worked out for us.
The district's graphics department figured out safety protocols for working together indoors and devised new signage for deployment throughout the immense park system. Due to the COVID-19 emergency, parks are busy. To keep East Bay Regional Parks open and safe, we need your help. We're in this together. The Park District also disseminated short audio-visual messages in many media to educate the public. In March, the spots focused on physical distancing and proper pandemic etiquette in the parks.
Hello, I'm Dr. Rohan.
Later in the spring, messaging shifted as it became clear it was also important for visitors to carry face coverings and wear them around others.
And please wear a face covering. Protect yourself and others too.
The idea behind this is actually that it's what we call source control. So we want your mask protects me and my mask protects you. So we're keeping and containing droplets and things that can be projected out of our mouths.
So we're happy to be able to provide them and to communicate to the best of our abilities the ever-changing storylines that go with what the rules and regulations are. Trying to be as helpful as possible in getting in front of them in every which way we can.
Overall, the messages seem to get through.
We think that the majority people are being very thoughtful and mindful about how they're enjoying the parks, and I think they're being very responsible, which is tremendous.
That was very good news, as the already popular East Bay Parks received an impressive influx of new visitors seeking solace in strange times and finding it.
What we really saw is an appreciation that we were open.
As the pandemic persisted, the importance of the district's Bayside parks, especially from Oakland northward through Richmond, played vital roles, providing less affluent and racially diverse communities excellent and easily accessible outdoor escapes in their own backyards. The East Bay Park's investment over the past 40 years to transform abandoned Bayside industrial zones into thriving parks paid great dividends, including here, where this dramatic stretch of the San Francisco Bay Trail opened to the public in the midst of the COVID crisis.
Very, very, very cool. The district started focusing on bringing urban parks to people who had no parks. We now have 9 miles of San Francisco Bay from Oakland to Richmond. They're a part of McLaughlin East Shore State Park. We did that.
Providing equal opportunities for all its residents to have access to the many benefits parks can offer has long been a core principle for East Bay Regional Parks and its nonprofit partner, the Regional Parks Foundation. The foundation had planned on providing $500,000 for special summer programs in the parks for young people in under-resourced communities. But generous donors stepped up to fund the creation of COVID-friendly alternatives.
The foundation has been able to fund what we would call distance learning now, where the parents that were thrown into becoming the kids' educators had resources to go to. So that's the way we've kind of flipped our programming from we take people to parks, that's what our whole goal is, to we're going to bring the parks to you. We went to our interpretive teams and we asked them to develop programming that was more associated with online learning.
Although pandemic response has taken center stage in the East Bay Regional Park District, other work must go on too, and it does. Fuel reduction proceeds as we head deep into fire season, and construction continues as well.
We've got close to $100 million of projects in the hopper right now that are doing jobs, construction jobs, park jobs, and providing new access for more people so there's more room for people to social distance in a park.
Well, as we record this, it's been 5.5 months since the shelter-in-place order was given, and the pandemic continues to plague us with no end in sight and no end of uncertainties ahead. But what is certain is that the East Bay Regional Park District will continue to follow the guidance of its public health partners and seek to keep its parks as open and accessible as possible, while remaining flexible and adapting if the COVID crisis diminishes or if it surges.
There's a possibility that we become more restrictive, because we will. We have to be like a rubber band. We have to stretch and come back, because it's about our staff and it's about the public using the park. So safety is number one.
When we come back, a few big lessons learned so far during the pandemic.
I would say that this pandemic has put a spotlight on, or maybe put some sunlight on, for so many people, the importance of our parks and the importance of open space.
I hope that we all take away from this, among many things, but that it's really important to invest in healthy communities, including public lands and public resources and public health.
Well, we've touched on just a handful of the many challenges faced by the East Bay Regional Parks team and its public health allies during the pandemic, as they sought to keep parks open, accessible, and safe for everyone. And with the coronavirus now spreading in the summer of 2020, it's impossible to have 2020 vision about the course of future events. But it is possible to see clearly some important lessons we've already learned.
I think right now, during the pandemic, we're coming to appreciate a lot of the things we probably took for granted or didn't show enough gratitude for. Of course, that's our frontline healthcare workers, our grocers, the people who deliver our packages, but also our parks, because they're one of the few places where we can go right now.
East Bay Congressman Eric Swalwell enjoys spending time in his East Bay Regional Parks as often as possible, sometimes hitting the trails with his constituents in Hike with Your Rep events. We had a Zoom conversation about lessons learned to date during the pandemic.
Mother Earth got us through this. Nature was here before all of the devices and technologies that are out there in nature in one of our greatest times of need, and for anyone who's alive, helped us get through it. It really, I think for many people, when you most wanted to get out of the house, when you couldn't, there were very few places you could go, but you could go back into nature. And I think, thank you to everyone who has allowed that, who's worked overtime to keep the parks open, to keep them clean, but to also keep them safe.
Representative Swalwell advocates for investing in nature, partly as a way to invest in the health of individuals and communities in a rapidly warming world.
The best way to invest in nature is to make sure that this earth can still thrive, because we've taken the steps to protect it from the risks of climate change. And so that also means putting more and more land into open space.
Increasing and carefully managing our parks and public open space will help nature and us be more resilient as the climate changes and new challenges to our health and well-being emerge. In a big and ever-growing urban region like ours, healthy parks, healthy people, and healthy communities go together as part of an integrated and successful public health ecosystem. That's a lesson we've all learned during the pandemic of 2020.
Parks are essential to keep us healthy, especially during the pandemic time. We talk about parks as being a nice to have, but during this prolonged response, it is a must have.
When we come back, parks prescriptions for everybody are just what the doctors ordered. OpenRoad is made possible by the generous support of our underwriters, dedicated to protecting our natural and historical treasures in the Bay Area and beyond. Additional support is provided by these institutions, also caring for our special environmental and cultural legacies and making them accessible to each and every one of us, now and for all time.
The past 5.5 months of the pandemic have generated consequential challenges for all of us and parks and public health professionals, and the path ahead is shrouded in mystery. But we have learned lessons to apply as we move towards our uncertain future and commit ourselves to caring for our personal and our public health. I will leave you with a few keen insights and wise medical prescriptions.
I like to say that this pandemic is actually a fire drill for more public health emergencies to come. Climate change is upon us and will only create more migration of vectors like insects and mosquitoes, of animals, and of people that will cause the spread of other diseases this century. We know that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of treatment. And that is so true when it comes to the role that public parks and open space can play for our overall well-being through this pandemic and beyond. And I want to emphasize the equity component, that families that may be low income or people of color tend to live in more overcrowded situations, 2 times as much. And that is actually a risk factor for coronavirus. People who rent rather than own their homes actually have 3 times the amount of overcrowding in their homes, which is a risk factor for coronavirus transmission. The more we can create safe and healthy parks and outdoor spaces where people can escape the stresses and the risk of being crowded indoors, the more we can help all people heal during these troubling times.
For more information about the East Bay Regional Park District, the Regional Parks Foundation, what's open and accessible in the parks, and health protocols we need to follow, go to NBCBayArea.com/OpenRoad.
Well, that's our show. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Doug McConnell, and we'll see you next time right here with more discoveries along the open road.